there is business out there. It isn't like everybody's closed up shop and gone home for the day. So you just have to know where to look for it. If you work with your clients or potential clients to have them view you as a subject matter expert, they're going to call you. It's all about the messaging. Make sure that your marketing plan is tied to your sales plan.
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. And today I'm excited to have Lenore Convery, who is the CRO for American Staffing Association. We've known each other back from the Monster days, and now you are running sales and growth for ASA, which is an amazing organization. Now, you've been in sales and recruiting for quite some time, and I know you love the thrill of working with teams, motivating teams, and driving sales. So, Lenore, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Anna. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, so I'm hoping what we can do is talk a little bit about your story. And I figured a good place to start, since we're talking about, sales. I know a common theme actually at Staffing World, and also recently I heard at, TechServe and SIA, driving growth in an organization during volatile times. And it's been a challenge, right? If you're in the tech space, which is, kind of my background, it's been a struggle for, 2.5 years as far as seeing growth. So how do you keep teams motivated, but then how do you drive growth within organizations? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so the last 2 years have been rough, and not even just looking at the tech market, but just in general at the staffing and recruiting industry as a whole, or talent as a whole. You've really had to go from a sales perspective. I've really had to work with teams to go where the money is. And what I mean by that is, maybe we take healthcare for a second as an example. If, allied and locums are doing really well, but travel is not, then, there is business out there. It isn't like everybody's closed up shop and gone home for the day. So I try to stay positive and remind the teams that there is business out there. You just have to know where to look for it. And I'm a strong believer. I've been leading sales teams for over 25 years now in a couple of different industries. I've been in the staffing and recruiting industry for the last 12. And I love this industry. I never want to leave this industry. And one of the things that I train and I truly believe in for myself is that if you work with your clients or potential clients to have them view you as a subject matter expert, they're going to call you. My phone will ring and people will just want to know, what am I hearing out there? What's going on in the marketplace? It's not about, which company I'm at the time and what are we actually selling. It's more about really helping have the focus on growth. And so I think a lot of the staffing and recruiting firms, and especially in tech, Anna, as you know, have really kind of diversified their portfolio, if you will. I don't want to use the word pivot anymore. I think we overused pivot during the pandemic, but I really think that looking at the business, especially from a technology perspective, or the IT staffing firms, making sure that they're looking at their business holistically and making decisions on whether to diversify. A lot of them, as you know, went into healthcare, which is why I use that as an example, and have remained in it just because it's an area that's going to continue to grow.
Right. And, you bring up a great point, in the sense that I know at AFM Strategic Partners, that's one of the common conversations that I'm having, is diversifying your portfolio, right? So companies are either looking at engaging in different skill sets, like you mentioned, getting into healthcare if you weren't in healthcare before, for example, or looking at different geographies. If you're a smaller company, let's say if you're based in the Northeast and you want to expand to the Midwest, or maybe internationally, or get into SOW work. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is a way, if you think about it, it kind of counters the MSP space a little bit, right? Because if you have a true project that you have a logical start and an end, and SOW makes more sense than the MSP route. So definitely some creativity and flexing different muscles. But you know what? Companies, I find it, I don't know, are you seeing the same thing? That they might rush to do something different, but then they're not prepared to be able
Yes.
to handle the different skill set or the different delivery model.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that a bunch, and obviously, you know that I just came from an agency, and so from a marketing perspective, them just following the bouncing ball or seeing the shiny object and saying, "Okay, I was a traditional IT staffing firm and now I'm going to go into solutions." It isn't like your clients or your potential clients are going to understand that overnight. Snap your fingers and off you go. It's all about the messaging, how to reach, if it's a new market, to your point, or if it's a new persona or somebody different that you are going to target versus maybe it was the MSPs. So, yeah, I think having a plan, working to make sure that your marketing plan is tied to your sales plan, I think that's an area with this industry that we don't do as well of a job as we should be. And I think the firms that are doing really well and are growing and are standing out right now while the market isn't doing as well are the ones that are ensuring that their sales and marketing plans are aligned.
Right, and that's another, I think, key element. I know myself personally, I've been in sales for more years than I care to admit, and the one thing that I always relied heavily on was the marketing side. Like, I couldn't imagine sales without marketing, and I would hope that marketing felt that they couldn't imagine marketing without sales. They needed to be joined at the hip. But you're right, in this industry, for whatever reason, we don't do such a great job. I think it's up to people like us to just keep mentioning that and keep bringing attention to it.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I like best about my new role at ASA is that they have a really strong marketing team and a strong sales team, but many times they're not tied together. And one of the most fun things that I've had the honor of working on for the last 90 days since I've been there is really connecting those two together. So, if marketing's got a really great targeted plan that's working, closing the loop, making sure that, the unique clicks, the people that are really getting involved and taking advantage of what it is you're marketing, that then the sales team is following up on those leads and then having a joint meeting where you literally can share, congratulating the marketing team on the messaging, on the, timing of getting the project out, all of those things, and then tying it right back to sales so that, everybody's under a microscope right now. Anything you're spending money on, you have to have ROI, proof of ROI on. So I just think, it would be really great if everybody thought about that for their teams as well and said, okay, you've got this marketing team that is ultimately driving revenue. But if you don't, as a leader, tie that back and share the success that the sales team is having directly linked to the marketing, I think that's a really big miss. And I think from a culture perspective, that could really, really help to make sure you tie those together.
Oh, exactly. I mean, listen, we've all worked in companies, speaking firsthand, where the CFO is saying, "I don't understand. Like, why do we have to spend so much money? They already know our name, our brand, and it's you got to show that ROI." I mean, I have some examples that personally, an account that we were trying to pursue as an organization. We then started this webinar series, and like 6 months later, the CIO hears this webinar, and then all of a sudden it clicks in his head and says, "Oh, you know what? This company's been trying to get a hold of me for quite some time. I should really speak." To the salesperson out of our New York City office. And we wound up closing the deal. So it's amazing, but it's like those are the moments that you go back to your CFO and go, like, "Look, this is how it works. The magic does work." So I get excited about that, but it's amazing. Like it's that connection because you're doing these webinars, you're doing these events, and then all of a sudden, whatever, 6 months later, a year later, somebody connects the dots and they start doing business with you.
Yeah, I mean, we have that at ASA too. We're the largest organization in the industry. And so you'd think, okay, well, how hard is it to do marketing? But there's new innovations coming out all the time. There's new ways that we can help staffing and recruiting firms. So, the lobbying, the legal, the legislation, that's always going to be out there. But things like we understand that a lot of firms, learning and development budgets have been cut over the last number of years. It's one of the things like marketing that tends to get cut when the economy is wonky in the way that it's been. So that's an area where, we now have not just the credentialing, which everyone knows we have, for recruiting, but this is an area that we now have 3 areas where we've used outside experts to come in and do professional courses for. So that's just an example where you would be like, well, how hard would it be to market? But nobody knows, to your point, about the evolution of the company and what you're doing next. And so it's really relevant and important to stay out in front.
Yeah, and again, I think you highlight a key point. It's an evergreen process because sometimes when a company is big enough, they get, kind of shoehorn fit into, oh, well, this company does ABC and not realize that it's not just ABC anymore, that you have, lots of other services and offerings. So it's keeping the market and keeping the industry informed as you evolve as an organization, and marketing helps drive that for sure. Okay, so Lenore, let's talk about impact of culture. And it's interesting as we've been going through season 1 here of the podcast, and I've had this conversation with several other guests. And originally the intent of impact of culture had to do with, me being first generation in this country and talking about just like the impact of cultural diversity and how you wind up utilizing that it helps you actually drive and create more business opportunity to company culture. And, what does it take to have a company culture? How difficult it was through the pandemic. And now we still have workforces that are somewhat remote and somewhat back in the office. But culture, I feel there's such a strong correlation of culture, no matter how you look at it, to winning business, right? Because if your teams are highly motivated and love the company culture, they're going to perform better. And that's just going to naturally lead to more business opportunity. If you tap into diversity of thought, I think it just motivates and drives groups better and more efficiently and more productive because you have more creativity that's been added into the mix. From your perspective, share like what you're seeing and what your thoughts are.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. And I know you know me really well. I am very high energy, and I would not want to go to a firm, an association that didn't all, that one of my favorite books is The Energy Bus. And it's all about not just getting the team on the bus, but making sure that the leader has the bus directed in the right direction and that everybody understands where that's going. So for me, I like to use that analogy because that's literally how I live my life. But culture is really important. And I am unbelievably blessed, like coming to American Staffing Association. This has been like the universe just opened up and said, this is exactly where you're supposed to be so that I can help so many different firms across the industry, while propelling the industry forward. But at ASA, the culture is amazing. And yes, that is set, by our 2 leaders, Richard and Stephen. But it's also the fact that everyone that comes to work for ASA understands that it's not only the largest association in our industry, but it's also the only nonprofit, right? So our mission is to accelerate the industry. We're here as a conduit to help grow. And so I'm really excited about the next few years. I know everybody's like, you do know that you're coming in at a time that has been, not great for the industry. And I'm like, perfect. This was one of the main reasons why I made the decision. I mean, the culture is so, so important to me. And I actually read and then watched a podcast yesterday about it actually adds 7 years to your life if you are a positive person by nature and or you surround yourself by positivity. Because I mean, look at the media. There's so much negativity in the world. You could literally open your phone or turn the TV on or however you get your media on a daily basis, and it can turn you dark and negative in 2 seconds. So I think that, having a culture of not only positivity, the energy, the why is so important. So whether you work at a nonprofit or for profit, or it doesn't really matter. As long as you understand why you're getting out of bed in the morning, why you're working, that extra hour with a client that really needs that help. I just think that for me is the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's sense of purpose, right?
Mhm.
When everybody feels that, and especially if the purpose is aligned within the team, that's when the magic happens, right? Because then
Mhm.
everybody is motivated and excited to drive that vision, that mission forward.
Yeah, and then everybody can share in the successes, and you will have successes. I mean, watch how fast it happens. So, like Monday morning huddles and team meetings. Whether it's people working with recruiters, whether it's people working with sales teams, like don't forget to highlight the good things that are happening. I mean, yeah, you do some trainings on, overcoming objections and all of those things that are really important to your business, but taking the time to start the meeting with, these are some of the successes from last week. This is how we got there. Like, I think sometimes people forget that that is the most important thing, even more important than, the postmortems on something that might not have gone the way that you had expected them to go.
Right, right. No, excellent points. Okay, so now it's probably the hardest question, but like one of my favorites, and I call it, personal bliss, right? So which includes family, health, well-being, and there's been a lot of discussion lately. I think we heard at Thrive, like, work-life balance is baloney, right? Doesn't exist. But
Mm-mm.
how do you make sure that every aspect of your life is aligned, right? What advice can you give?
So, I mean, I believe that it's at different stages in your life that there are things that are different. And what I mean by that is, when I had two young children, probably my priorities looked very different than, now when I have two daughters that are in their 20s and are contributing to society and, don't have them on the payroll and all those things. But I'm a big athlete. I was a college athlete. I ran track and I'm a distance runner. So I love to run. I've run almost, minus whatever days. I've run almost every day since I was 13. And so I think that keeps me grounded. Um, so, whatever your running is, as I've gotten older, I've started to do triathlons just to kind of give my body a break, adding swimming and cycling to that, so I'm not pounding every day. But I think whatever that, going back to your why, whatever that is that brings you joy, grounds you, helps you solve problems, eat the frog first thing in the morning. Those are the things that you should do. I mean, if that's we recently moved to, just outside Denver. So I work on East Coast time. So now I gave up my morning workout. I do it at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, it's still light out for me. So I still feel like, whether it's walking your dog at lunchtime for 15 minutes or it's, do something for yourself. Since the pandemic and people working remote, I feel like everybody's going from meeting to meeting to meeting. There's not even like we try to do the 45-minute meeting so that you do have a couple minutes to answer emails, grab a drink of water, like whatever you need in between. But I think just enacting some small changes in your business, whether it's the 25-minute meetings or the 45-minute meetings to get those couple of minutes, or blocking 30 minutes sometime in, the first half of your day and 30 minutes in the second half of your day to give yourself a chance to either think or, respond to something that really needs attention immediately. Those are two tricks that I do to put in my calendar to make sure that that I've got time. Because you can solve problems if you step away from your desk and you need to think through something. I mean, I feel like I can solve problems quicker by stepping away for a second and coming back versus just continuing to grind.
Oh, agreed, agreed. It's that sense of clarity that you can get. One of the habits that I've gotten into is, kind of like protecting my calendar where I block out The first hour, from like 7 to 8 in the morning is blocked out. So no meetings like that. That's my time to kind of get in sync with what I need to do during the day. And then blocking out that half an hour so I do get lunch, because that was a common problem where, oh my goodness, I have back-to-back meetings. I haven't had anything to eat. And then you wind up overeating at dinner time, and then you're not healthy for all those reasons. But great aspect. You're right. It is a personal journey as far as what works for you, but go out and find your running, I think, is the valuable message there. All right, Lenore. So now we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to ask you some questions and just respond whatever comes to your mind. What is the most unusual item on your desk right now?
I'm gonna go with a tennis ball. I have an 8-month-old puppy, and sometimes he'll come into my office and go crazy, and I will have to chuck the ball to get him to leave. So I'm gonna go with the tennis ball.
Oh my goodness, a puppy. I love that. Did you get the puppy through ASA, adopt a puppy?
I didn't, because I adopted him a couple weeks before, but we did
Oh,
rescue him here in the mountains. So yeah, he's
oh
he's
my
super
goodness,
fun.
wonderful. Okay, so what is your guilty pleasure song that you never want anyone to hear during a sales call?
Oh, all right. So my sales teams, if they're watching this, they'll know I'm a big Unstoppable fan. So, you probably know that like the power pose gets you going if you're about to step into like a board meeting where you need to be on your mark. So I'm gonna go with Unstoppable.
I love that. Okay. All right. Who would play you in a movie?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with the ever classy Meg Ryan.
Oh, that's a great one. Meg Ryan. I like that. Okay. So if you were a superhero, what would your sales related superpower be? And it can't be reading minds.
Oh, that's what I was gonna. Okay, yeah. Can I use reading the room? I'm decent at
Ah,
reading the room. I can anticipate
okay.
like what people are thinking and how it's happening.
All right. That's good. Read the room. All right. So what's one word your colleagues would use to describe you on a Monday morning?
All right. On a Monday morning, I'm going with caffeinated. True story, when I first started my sales career in Manhattan, I was an inside sales rep, literally dialing for dollars. And we had a coffee pot, and the coffee was free. And one morning I came in and there was a sign on it, and it said, "Enjoy the coffee, except if you're Lenore." So they cut me off. I have so much energy in the morning. I am a total morning person, and especially if I've run before I've come into work. So yeah, I am highly caffeinated, even when I haven't had caffeine.
That's fantastic. I love that. I think that's a first. I haven't heard that one yet. So that's perfect. Well, listen, Lenore, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Really enjoyed your insights, and look forward to having you back on the show.
Oh, thanks so much. It was an honor. I appreciate it, Anna.
Thanks for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. In our next episode, we talk to Michelle Sims about discovering team strengths and how real growth starts by slowing down. See you then.